Hi guys, welcome back to the FSeries channel, and if it's not welcome back, make sure you hit that red subscribe button because every Friday is what? An FSeries Friday! I'm joined today by Steph, Kira and Dorney, and we're going to be chatting about whether Valtteri Bottas will bring the title challenge to Lewis Hamilton in 2021. And I'm sure you all know who Valtteri Bottas is, but a quick rundown if you don't. He has been part of the Mercedes Formula 1 team since 2017 after the shock retirement announcement from Nico Rosberg when he won the World Drivers' Championship in 2016. And previously to that, he started his F1 career at Williams. He's now entering his 5th year with Mercedes, and after last season where he yet again said that he had a plan to bring a title fight to Lewis, we are yet again sat here wondering whether the man is all talk or will he actually do as he says and give us the title battle that we all desperately crave. So first of all, ladies, I want to put the question to you. What did you think of Bottas' 2020 season? Did he improve on his previous seasons? And was it enough for you to be satisfied with?
No. I'll just put it out there, no. I think Bottas' 2019 campaign was the strongest campaign he's had. And I think it was good because the title fight went on much longer and he was in the running for a much longer period of time and period of races than he was this year. I thought he kind of came out of the blocks in 2019 really strongly, and it seemed like he did the same thing in 2020 with the first race in Austria because he was on pole. I think he was on pole, wasn't he? Yeah. He was on pole, he won the race, so it was like, okay, so this plan, he's put it into action. We're going to get a title fight. How exciting! And then the second race, Lewis Hamilton was on pole, Lewis Hamilton won. And then the third race, Lewis Hamilton was on pole and Lewis Hamilton won. And I was like, oh, okay, this plan isn't going to work, is it? And it just kind of, it all went downhill from there. So, yeah, I wasn't very impressed with Bottas in 2020.
No, neither was
I agree with Steph. I think this year was definitely not one to write home about. And it could have really, the opportunity and there was such a good chance of him really putting it together this year. Because of the different season, the reduced races, the potential for change, there were so many factors which kind of handed him more opportunity than he would have in a normal season of F1, and it's almost as if he just didn't grab that opportunity and didn't make the most of it. We know he started off really strong. He won the first race, but it was a back-to-back weekend, and he flew back home, and it's just so frustrating because already by that point you're showing you're less dedicated than people who stayed at the track, because there was drivers and teams and personnel who stayed at the track, and it was almost just like it would have been such a good opportunity. And I think the fact that the season was so different and provided so many different opportunities and circumstances, it would have been a really strong year if he'd given it his all. I feel really bad saying this because I'm sure he did give it his all, but also...
No, I don't believe he did. I think he could have done more.
I think he's given it his all. I just think his all isn't enough because it isn't as strong as Lewis, which is fair enough. Lewis is a 7-time world champion. I get confused how many championships he's got at this point. But no, I feel like the first couple of years at Mercedes, obviously it was more Sebastian versus Lewis back then when Ferrari were back up there, and we didn't really look at Valtteri, and obviously it was his first year, so we kind of let him off. I always had an excuse for him the first couple of years because I was like, give him some time, but now I'm absolutely done with it. There is no excuse, and I know it's so difficult to have a teammate as a 7-time world champion, but the only reason why he is a 7-time world champion is because you haven't brought it to him. You've been with him for like 5 years now. You're the reason why he's got 2-7 because you haven't brought it. I just don't think he's ever going to get it. And I'm fed up of the conversation of, I'm going to bring it this year, and he'll always end up doing well. I reckon in Bahrain he'll do well at the first race because he always seems to do it right at the first race, and then from there it's just rubbish. And it's just the fact as well that Lewis, it's not that Lewis doesn't work hard because he works very hard, but he doesn't overwork. Lewis just comes up and it's a natural ability, And Valtteri just can't match that, and it's just a bit embarrassing, really. So.
No, you're not embarrassed.
Are you not ashamed of yourself?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I was like thinking about Valtteri's 2020 season, and I was like, it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrific. And then I realised that he only won 2 races. And then I realised Max Verstappen came second, even though he had like 5 retirements. And then it really clicked in my brain that no, 2020 was a goddamn awful season for Bottas. Embarrassing. So I think it's safe to say there's some room for improvement from him. And for someone who is now entering his 5th season with the team,
5th
we would
and final.
expect some better levels of performance, wouldn't we? So I think one area which I would argue he has improved on considerably is his qualifying pace, because he got 5 pole positions in 2020 season compared to Lewis's 10. But definitely an improvement for what we've seen previously. So, ladies, where do you think Bottas needs to improve? Or is there nothing else he can do against Lewis?
So I think the key issue with Bottas is that he is a driver who's never going to be a world champion. You looked at him all through the junior seasons, and he was never a driver that you went, he has the potential to be a future world champion. He's a good driver, he's really solid, he can deliver, but he's not a world champion driver. However, we have now put so much pressure on him because he's Lewis's teammate, he's in the Mercedes, all the kind of key things are there for him to be a world champion, and it looks like he should be because he's in that situation. But I think I don't think he's going to be a world champion, and we kind of forget and we just think because he's in a Mercedes that he should be. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think
No, I understand.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Do you know what that reminds me of, what Dorney's just said? There was a qualifying, and I can't remember what qualifying it was throughout 2020, and Lewis ended up on pole, and Bottas was maybe 4 tenths off of him, and he still was in second place. He was P2, and he came off and he said he's not bothered about the gap between him and Lewis, and that's one of the things that sticks out to me, is you need to be bothered about that gap if you want to be taking the fight to Lewis Hamilton. You can't not care, you can't shrug it off. It's not like that. So in comparison, someone like Max Verstappen, who I think the whole community can tell he is World Driver Championship material, when he didn't get on pole in Turkey and Lance took that pole away from him, he was fuming. And I'm not saying that Bottas needs to get angry, but you always need to, have that fire in you to want to be P1. And the fact that Bottas just doesn't care, or I don't know if he doesn't care, but the fact that he kind of just shrugged off the fact that there's that massive difference between him and Lewis, it just seems like he is not putting as much in as Lewis is, and he's not looking at every single tiny aspect that he can do to bridge that gap to Lewis. And that's the only way that he would be able to. He has to look at every single tiny thing, and he has to capitalize on all of those tiny opportunities in order to take that fight to Lewis, and that's something that I don't see him doing.
But maybe it's the fact that he knows himself that he's not going to make up that gap. He knows that he is that much of a gap behind Lewis because Lewis is this extraordinary driver, and Bottas has put so much pressure on himself for 5 years or what, trying to achieve something that he can't achieve. So maybe he's now just taken a step back and gone, no.
But then he's wasting the best seat in Formula 1.
Yeah.
And he needs to move.
Yeah.
Because think how many thousands of drivers would say, I'll have that now. Every driver, no matter if you're in GT cars, if you're in Formula 3, any driver would take that if they could. So he needs to stop being a wet wipe, really.
Grow up, Bottas.
Grow up. You're in your 30s now, grow up.
Yeah, I guess I never saw it that way, that we look at Bottas and we put this amount of pressure on him because he is Lewis Hamilton's teammate and because every other single team is incapable at bringing it to Mercedes. So the only person who could is Valtteri Bottas. And I guess it never clicked in my mind that if I actually look at his career, would I ever pick him out as a potential world champion? And the answer would be no. So that's a really good point. Maybe we should all just be a little bit kinder and just accept that he's just there, doing his thing, getting his pay packet, having a good time. Maybe similar to Kimi, he's like, it's more like a hobby to me. I'm going to come second or third and that's fine. And go from there. But we need to talk about the big elephant in the room. And that big elephant is George Russell. We have been fortunate already to see George tackle the Mercedes at the Sakir Grand Prix, where Lewis was unable to race. And it was safe to say that we were all quite impressed with George's performance. So what I want to ask you ladies is there anything Bottas can do to stop George getting that Mercedes seat in 2022? Or is it too little too late?
No.
If he wins the championship,
No.
maybe.
No.
But it's not going to happen, so...
No.
Right. Okay.
Sorry.
Jeez.
I
convince
want to
Lewis
talk
to
about
retire.
this one. Huh?
He can convince Lewis to retire, then he can keep
This is
going.
the thing.
Lewis
right.
isn't retiring. You
You need to stop
get
it
off
now.
it. You need to stop this.
But maybe next year.
This is the thing, right? This is where I'm not being rude to you, Toto, right? But the 3-year deal at Williams. Alright, yeah, sorry Toto if you're watching. The 3-year deal at Williams for George Russell was too long. It needed to be 2 years maximum. You did not need Valtteri Bottas in your car for another 3 years. You absolutely didn't. George Russell is not a driver that needs time to prepare. And I know a lot of people saying, oh, it'd be so good for him to spend the time in the Williams. Not 3 years, okay? He was ready after 1 year. Completely ready. So now you're wasting George's prime. You are. I'm sorry, Toto. You are. I don't think there has been a principle in agreement since his GP3 days that you will be in a Mercedes after your contract at Williams. That's where Toto is one of the best people for his junior drivers. He will, apart from Pascal Wehrlein, we won't talk about that one. But other than that, he is always going to place his juniors up into Formula 1. They're not like Red Bull that throw him out the window every 5 seconds. You know, he will place him. He's not going to keep Valtteri for another year. It can't happen. And if he does, I will be writing to him because I'll be very angry. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think George is definitely going to step up next year. I think Lewis will stay on for next year. I don't see why he wouldn't. He'd be very silly to not to. And I don't want Valtteri and George in the team together. It's not very exciting. It's literally going to be like Lewis and Valtteri, but George and Valtteri, because I think George and Lewis are so similar in a way, with that World Championship mentality. So yeah, I definitely don't think that Valtteri's got another year at Williams. Not at Williams. Oh my God, he might have another year at Williams. It might be next year. He doesn't have another year at Mercedes. No.
You won't have it.
I won't have it.
Honestly, wow, my brain's fully
Actually, so
oh my God, someone take over whilst my brain just
I'll
clicks
take over.
back in.
I'll save this. I was going to say, obviously, up until a couple of days ago, it was always kind of, yeah, George will get there, he'll take his time, he'll get there, that's fine. But now there's the added pressure of Frederick Vesti, everyone's bestie, being signed as a Mercedes junior, or whatever. Is he a junior? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Being signed. So that's already put the pressure on because he's going to be coming up through and he's going to presumably get George's seat. So, or if he doesn't get George's seat, like where, and then there's now a ticking clock. Like, we've got to speed this process on a lot. Otherwise, it'll be like Frederick and George we need to find a seat for.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's such a good point. I was just thinking, what if they put Frederick Vesti in the Aston Martin, because they've got good connections with Aston Martin now. How good would that be? I'm so excited now because it's basically a Mercedes, isn't it? So
I mean, it was last year as well, so.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think the only if we're talking about things that Bottas could do in order to keep that seat, taking the title would then be like a spanner in the works. And I think Toto would be thinking, oh, what do I do now? I know he's very like clued in on the junior driver things, but I don't know if he would let Bottas go that easily if he was to win the championship, which I obviously don't think is going to happen. It's just not going to happen, which is why Bottas isn't going to be there anymore. So it's I don't know, it's null and void really. So I'm just going to move on from that. But yeah, I think Bottas has had more than enough time to demonstrate enough skill and ability to take the fight to Lewis Hamilton, and he has clearly not taken anyone up on those opportunities. Bottas is not.
He's not very good, okay? He's not
Beef, are you ready yet?
Honestly,
Are you ready? Is your brain working?
I think the thing with Bottas is you think of Valtteri Bottas and you don't think a lot. All you think is just disappointment, like not even anger.
We're just throwing shade at this point.
Honestly, you just think disappointment, and I think genuinely the only way he can keep his seat going into 2022 at Mercedes is if Lewis gets 8 and then decides that's enough, I only want one more, and doesn't see himself wanting to do the 2022 regs, or like you say, he wins the World Drivers' Championship. But surely once he's done that, like, why, he knows it's not going to happen again. Like,
yeah,
if
he
happens,
wins,
yeah,
he
we could
needs to
just
walk.
pull a Nico.
if it happens, the most shocked person about Valtteri Bottas winning a World Drivers' Championship will be Valtteri Bottas. Honestly. So I think, honestly, if we get to 2022 and that man is still in that Mercedes seat, I don't know what we will.
I'm not watching. I'm turning it off.
Kira, that's a lie. That's a lie.
I mean, would we see him still in Formula 1 if by 2022? Do we really think he would go back to Williams, or do we think he's off, he's done? What do you think?
No, Bottas is going rally driving. Now, I think once he's been yeeted out of the Mercedes, he's not dropping back down the grid. There won't be a place for him anywhere on the grid, just because it's so saturated as well. We want in Callum Islet on the grid. Robert Schwartzman's going to graduate next year. Guan Yu Zhou and Christian Lundgaard from F2. There's not
Oscar Piastri.
Oscar as well.
right. Fine. Now, Oscar's going to do a couple of years. He's not going to come
No,
on.
Christian's getting a seat first.
No, I think Oscar's getting a seat for both of them.
All right, okay, that's not
not what we're on about here.
All I'm saying is there's a massive pool of talent for every single team below the grid. There's just not a space for Bottas to actually end up on the grid, and he's not going to go realistically back to Williams. And honestly, he doesn't bring as much money as someone like Nicholas Latifi or Roy Nissany, so he's not going to be in that seat. So Bottas is going to go away. He's going to go join Rally. He might even join Extreme E, do something like that.
Nico Rosberg's team.
And he will have a successful career doing something else in Formula 1, and hopefully he'll be able to redeem his motorsport career rather than just being, a number 2 driver for Lewis Hamilton for 5 years.
Guys, though, I filmed I'm plugging myself a little bit, but I actually filmed a video on this on my channel not long ago, and it was where will Valtteri Bottas go after he inevitably loses his seat at the end of the year, and I literally said either rallying, he might be a cyclist, he might go to Extreme E for Nico Rosberg's team. So there's all these possibilities he could do, and I would love to see, as I said in my video, I would love to see him do rallying, because I think he's such a good rally driver. I would have him on my team for rallying.
Did you see Turkey when it was work?
No, that's not rallying though.
See that man?
That is not rallying.
No, dude.
Rallying is not on wet. Rallying is either sand or ice or something like that. No, but I actually think he would thrive somewhere else, because he's still young. He's not like old. Do you know what I mean? I think he'd thrive somewhere else if he was to just step away from Formula 1 and explore other things. So if you see Valtteri Bottas next year in Extreme E, that's why.
Do you think it is a shame? So obviously no one is going to turn down, you don't even know what I've said, no one's going to turn down the Mercedes seat when they get offered it, but he was thrown into that seat very last minute, very late. Obviously Nico retired after 5 days into his championship win, so it was like so unexpected, and pretty much everyone else on the grid, any other potential options, already had contracts, and Valtteri was just the most feasible person to get into that Mercedes, one of the only options. And I think it has been a bit of a shame. I have such a sweet spot for Valtteri, but I don't even know why. But
so weird.
Donnie Simps for the weirdest drivers.
Not the point of the video. And I just think he has become a bit of a laughingstock, and as we've all said, like him going to rallying or something, I think he would get on so well and he could almost like redeem himself. But I feel like him as well, personally, like you don't want to be like, I chose to leave Mercedes to go and pursue something else. That I think it must take such a like brave person to make that choice and actively step away.
I don't think he's going to actively step away though. I think he's going to be booted and then have to himself. There's not going to be, Toto coming to him like, I'll give you the option to stay on or not. Like, absolutely not. He's going to be like, get out the door.
Yeah, because he was actually Valtteri Bottas said that he was grafting for longer than a 1-year contract, so his contract was extended for 2021, and he was like, I wanted a longer contract, and Toto said no.
No, that's George.
And we all know why Toto said no.
Yeah, I think, honestly, what team principal is looking on the grid and being like, ooh, what driver do I want in my team? Valtteri Bottas. I don't think there's a single team principal who fancies that one. There's, like you all said, there's so much talent coming through. There's so many drivers already on the grid that I think teams would rather take over Valtteri Bottas. So, honestly, 2022, I doubt he'll be on the grid. If he is, the man's done an absolute madness, and we must praise him
dub.
for that. Like, so, yeah, that's our thoughts on Bottas, and whether we think he'll bring it to 2021 season. Spoiler, he won't. And as usual, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings. Let us know if you're a Bottas simp like Dorney, because we just want to know.
We want to know if there's one other one in the world, because we've only found one.
I don't know why I am.
Will he give us a title fight in what might be his last season at Mercedes, or possibly ever Formula 1? So let us know down below. And if you like this video, give it a like, because it really, really helps us out.
You better have liked this video.
Yeah.
You better have.
Is that a threat?
And if you're not already, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on that post notification bell, because every Friday is what?
FSeries
Friday!
Wow, brilliant, great. We would hate for you to miss out on another video. All of our social media links, they'll be in the description down below as well. So if you've not followed us on Twitter, go and do that as well. And I guess we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Bye.